Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of the CXO Show. My name is Swapnil Kamath. I am the CEO of Upgrad for Business, which is the enterprise or the business arm of Upgrad, Asia's and possibly the world's largest education company. As all of you all know, or whoever's watching knows, this is the favorite time of my week because I get to interact with some doins of the HR and L&D community. I get to interact with some of India's most successful professionals that have really, made it from scratch in their career. And I always end up learning so much from these particular interactions. We're shooting this particular episode on 16th of November, which is one day after India beat New Zealand in the semi-final. So if I'm looking unusually happy, it is because I was there for the match yesterday, and the result, as all of you all are aware, was very much in our favor. I'm sure you're going to watch this episode after the finals, so I may or may not be that happy after the finals. Let's see what the outcome is. Today, I have with me Yogesh Pawar. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good, Swapnil.
Good. And I'm especially excited about this conversation because Yogesh is somebody that I've interacted with multiple times before, unlike a lot of our guests that I interact possibly for the first time with. And I have a lot of knowledge and background as to how Yogesh works, and he's one of the most impressive people that you'll find in the HR community, a very soft-spoken person. And I'm so glad that he's agreed to do this particular show, but his work and his work ethic speaks volumes, and I've experienced that firsthand. And Yogeshji, whether you know this or not, I always cite you as an inspiration for our own team. Every time anybody has any complaint about working hard, I typically give your example as to you're a great combination of hard plus smart work at the workplace, right? So thank you very much for agreeing to do this particular show with me.
Thank you very much, Swapnil. Thank you very much for those kind words. Thanks a lot.
I have some more kind words for you, Yogeshji. With each and every one of our guests, we often read out an introduction, and we know this introduction has not really come from you. And my team does a very, very good job of making those introductions really nice. So I think you will like it, and it'll also give whoever's listening a little bit of a understanding of your background, which is very important for the sake of this conversation. So please hold tight till I read your introduction for people. Okay. So Mr. Yogesh Pawar is the General Manager for Recruitment and Learning and Development at Mankind Pharma. With a postgraduate diploma in human resources and an extensive career spanning over 2 decades, Yogesh brings a wealth of experience to the forefront. His expertise lies in organizational development, people strategy, leadership developing, making him a seasoned professional in the dynamic realm of pharma and insurance. Yogesh has worked in major organizations like Max Life Insurance, Torrent Pharma, Solvay Pharma, and recently Mankind Pharma. A dedicated advocate of driving business through building capabilities. He has personally interviewed over 15,000 individuals for crucial roles, underlying his commitment to talent acquisition and development. His career journey reflects a remarkable focus on learning and development, wherein he has spearheaded the development of training systems for sales teams, curated need-based training content, and played a pivotal role in crafting a digital nudge platform for the field force. Colleagues commend Yogesh for his empathetic leadership style and for fostering an environment that values teamwork and growth. As a leader, he transcends the traditional managerial role, being not just a manager, but a guide and a mentor, and dedicated to the advancement of his team. Thank you very much, Yogesh, for coming. And I know each one of these things are true, having worked with you, right? And before we get started, I don't mean to praise you too much, but before we get started, I have to give one kind of anecdote to you. And I don't want to give too many details about it, but the one thing that I've really appreciated is your lens on learning and development is a very, very unique lens that you have. The lens that you have is one of doing cutting edge stuff, right? When it comes to learning and development. And often we struggle as partners to convince our clients to do cutting edge stuff. In your case, it's the opposite. You are pushing us to do more cutting edge stuff. And by cutting edge, I just mean learning that is engaging, learning that is relevant for today's day and age, learning that is relevant to your target market that you're catering to, your internal customer that you're catering to, right? And that's very, very important part of what you do. And and I mean this absolutely from the bottom of my heart. You're a shining example of how learning and development in today's day and age must happen and how you must think about it. Also, your ability to listen well is amazing. In all my discussions with you, I've always noticed that, and your ability then to take an idea and execute it brilliantly is also something that you do brilliantly. So, Yogesh, I know that you're going to have a here. Of course, you already had a fantastic career, but you're going to go a long, 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 long way and do some tremendous contributions to the landscape of L&D in India.
Thank you so much, Swapnil. It was quite nice to listen all these things about self.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a reflection for me as well. And it gives a lot of responsibility also back that I need to live it to each and every words which you have spoken.
Yes. Yeah, but it's good. It's good. It's a net positive for everyone what you're doing. Okay. So Yogesh, the first thing that I want to touch upon, and I don't want this answer to be too long. I want it to be a brief answer on a little bit of your background, right? Tell us, let's take this back to possibly your last formal education and what got you from there till this point. If you could give us a brief journey of your career, that would be very useful for people listening in.
Okay, I'll take your permission to elaborate a bit on this because my formal education was very different than what I'm doing right now. So, so I did my graduation with physics, chemistry, and mathematics. So that was BSc. And then after graduation, when I entered into post-graduation, it was altogether a different subject. It was post-graduation in English literature.
Oh.
So, the science in graduation and English literature in post-graduation, and I started all together in a new field, which was selling medicines.
Oh.
And uh, so that was altogether a different domain. And they are usually in that time MNCs, they used to recruit only B Farm or BSc Bio kind of people. So I started my career with pharma industry as a medical representative. So started with Cipla and then worked with Solvay Pharma, 6 years in a MR role, and then I became a team lead, state head. And then later on, when I realized that I can do great in L&D, I moved into L&D with Max New York Life. Worked for 3 years there, became a cluster head training, and then uh, I came back to pharma industry in L&D with Torrent. Uh, Worked there for a year in a zonal role, and then became a corporate L&D manager in Torrent Pharma. And then I again restarted my learning journey. I enrolled myself in PGDHRM from NMIMS. Then I started my ODCP journey from ISAPS, that is Indian Society of Applied Behavioral Sciences. Uh, so that's how my education was, along with my professional journey as well. And then in 2018, I joined Mankind as a head for sales and marketing L&D. So that's how this journey was like, and now I'm working as a senior general manager for Mankind, uh, and enjoying thoroughly what I'm doing, and lucky to be with this organization where I'm getting a lot of opportunity to experiment and exercise my own experiences, my own thinking, and I'm allowed to experiment a lot, so that liberty is there. So enjoying this journey.
Amazing. It's good to hear that. I have so many comments and follow-up questions just based on your introduction. What I find often very interesting is, and I've said this probably repeatedly over all these episodes, is I think every young person, whether they're in school and college today, needs to understand that very often what you study is not what your career will end up being, right? So, I did my MBA in marketing as a specialization.
Mhm.
And I never, Yogesh, in my wildest dreams would have thought that I would have anything to do with the space of HR or L&D, right? If anybody told me that in college, I wouldn't believe them, right? But that's how life pans out sometimes, right? You end up doing stuff which is totally disconnected in a way where you got educated when opportunities present themselves. And of course, so for any young person, even if you're not clear on what you want to do in college, that's totally fine, right? You don't need to be.
Mhm.
And a lot of times you'll resonate with this. A lot of young people often ask me questions saying, hey, I don't know my passion. And I often tell them that if you don't know what your passion is, do whatever you're going to do right now with passion, right? Don't
Mhm.
wait to find your passion till you do a good job at something, right? Whatever it is, do that passionately. Automatically things will open up if you do your current work passionately, right? The best guarantee to tomorrow's success is doing today's job well. And I think so many young people don't focus on that. Tell me, how did you move into L&D? I'm very inquisitive about that question. About, you went from medical rep, heading regions. Where did the interest in L&D come?
Okay, Swapnil, I'll take it from what you said and your advice to these youngsters that whatever you are doing currently, do it with a lot of passion.
Yeah.
So I think when I reflect back, that worked magical for me as well because
Mm.
when I started with Cipla, though I was not from bio background, but I had only one thing in mind that in training itself I need to be a topper, and I did my
Mm.
best. I was a topper there, and then when I joined the field, I thought that there is enormous scope in this field. And
Mm.
at that time, MNCs were on boom, and they were
Mm.
recruiting only BSc Bio and B Farm.
Yeah.
So, so again, just taking it from what you said that working passionately wherever you are.
Yeah.
So I had only one thing in my mind that I need to join some MNC because that
Mm.
time people wanted to be a part of MNC.
Yeah.
And I had one challenge that I am not having that bio or pharmacy background. What should I do? So you
Mm.
won't believe I bought a book of anatomy physiology for nurses, that green book.
Wow. Wow.
And
Wow.
I
Wow.
worked this entire book up and I prepared myself thoroughly and I could enter in Solvay Pharma, which was a Dutch MNC, and
Yeah.
working with all concept selling products, their own research products.
Yeah.
And passionately, I worked there for 6 years.
Yeah.
And that was the company where people used to retire and
Mm.
people used to stay for a long time.
Yeah.
So promotions in 6 years was quite unusual in that company.
Mm.
And I got promoted within 6 years and became a
Got it.
state head for that company. And from
Yeah.
there only, that trigger has come, that inspiration has come that I need to be a part of L&D.
Wow.
What happened when I went for a training program?
Mm.
That was a training program on relationship management by
Yeah.
Homi Mullah.
Yeah.
So he was a very expert trainer. When I
Yeah.
attended his 6 days program,
Yeah.
and I was mesmerized with the way he was facilitating the program and
Yeah.
the way he was changing thinking, our mindsets, the way he was influencing us. And
Mm.
that impact lasted for a long time. In fact,
Wow.
still I'm remembering him after 2007. It's
Mm.
almost close to 17 years, and still I'm
Mm.
remembering Homie here when
Yeah.
I'm talking.
Yeah.
So I thought I want to do something like this, uh,
Mm.
who can impact and who can change mindsets and who can contribute hugely in
Mm.
somebody's thinking shaping. So
Mm.
that kind of work I want to do. So that
Wow.
inspiration came from there, that one program.
Wow.
And that's the time when I started thinking, though it took 2 years after that to start my
Execute.
journey into L&D.
Mm.
Uh, However, that was the trigger point for me, Swapnil.
It's so interesting, Yogesh. Yeah, I find this like extremely fascinating on so many different levels, right? The first level on which I find it fascinating is the role one particular, 5 or 6 day session can have in a person's life, right? So, Yogesh, very often as both of us in professionals of learning and development, we often wonder, no, अरे क्या impact कर रहे हैं हम लोग? You know, that question is that existential question that we have very often. I think this is in a way the answer to that, right? Yeah, you know, somebody, and I remember that trigger for me, which I'll share with you as well.
Mhm.
um but you know, just that trigger of you know, one session, right, defining somebody's entire career, as it is, as you say, defined yours in some way, right? You made a move, found your true passion in some way, and did some amazing work there. But yeah, you know, there's a very nice quote that says a person's mind stretched by a new idea never goes back to its original dimension, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes that one idea is enough, you know, for you to take a totally different route. And you know, often what I share with learning and development people, I don't think we've had this conversation, but you know, even if there are 30 people in a room, and if you, even if you impact, you know, 10% or three people in that particular room, that's a huge impact that you're having on the overall ROI for that particular program, right? Both at an individual, you know, that person, and at a company level, right? So I think I find that very, very, very interesting as to how that one session had a defining impact on you, right? And I think, you know, very often that also brings my attention. And Yogesh, I want your comment on that. You know, the importance of expert facilitators and trainers, right? And often, you know, it makes more sense for you to pay a little more extra to that expert facilitator or trainer, because the impact that that particular person have, you know, somebody else may not be able to have. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'll pick one word from you, that is
Yeah,
that facilitation
yeah,
sometimes is such a brilliant tool.
yeah,
It brings best out of you.
yeah,
And I think when I reflect back and I see Homi,
yeah.
more than a trainer, he was an excellent facilitator.
Yeah,
And if somebody who is facilitating and trying to bring best out of the people who are being the part of the program, uh, they are more impactful people. I can't say that trainers are not impactful, but I
yeah,
would say that the style of taking out best within someone,
yeah, yeah.
and that being a thinking board for someone and driving his own thinking and shaping
Yes.
that person by
Yeah,
facilitating through very powerful tools,
yeah,
that sometimes gives very strong impact
yeah.
and brings best out of people,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
And you know, I think in adult education, Yogesh, facilitation, I was using for a minute the term facilitation and trainer interchangeably. Uh, However, I think facilitation is not just a great tool for adult education. I think facilitation is a great tool even for children's education, right? I think any kind of education, the role of a teacher slash trainer should wear more towards being a facilitator, because even at a young age, people, you need to get people to think in some way, you need to get people to reflect, you need to get people to articulate, because so often when you're articulating is when you get clarity on a certain issue, right? When you're doing that. So yeah, I think a huge role of good facilitators, trainers. And very interestingly, I was reading an article this morning about Narayan Murthy talking about how India needs to invest at least 1 billion,
Hmm.
right? Which is close to 8,200 crores in teacher training, right? And I think that is so important, that, that kind of money is invested and that kind of respect is shown for teachers, because that is the kind of thing that really can change the fate of a country,
Hmm.
in a big way, right? You know, the other thing when you were talking, Yogesh, that really triggered my thought around is the importance of the corporate L&D in India's economy, right? Because, and this was, of course, I think the real pioneers of this again was somebody like Infosys and the Indian IT industry, right?
Hmm.
That not just had to code for the world outside and develop software, but ensure that they trained enough people and created world-class institutes internally, like an Infosys, Wipro, TCS, and all of them did, in order to produce world class talent. And that, in a big way, changed the fate of India in some way, right? So I think a lot of the work you are doing today and a lot of the work that is done by corporate L&D it goes unnoticed, right? Nobody talks about it, right? It doesn't come on Economic Times that much, right, as an important topic. But I think, Yogesh, the contribution that you all have is immense to the development of India. That's my thought. I don't know whether you have a comment on that.
No, absolutely. I resonate with what you are saying. See, I think that learning is one thing which keeps people going.
Mm,
And if your department or your team is helping people facilitate their learning journey,
mm,
uh, that's the best thing which anyone can contribute into.
mm.
So, as a L&D person, I say this is equally important as the strategic departments or the marketing departments contributes to
Yeah,
strategy making.
yeah,
Making people stronger, making people contributing by implementing that strategy better.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
the role of L&D
yeah,
because L&D is going to make people stronger, and these people are the only foundation of the organization because they
yeah,
are the ones who is going to implement this strategy
yeah,
or whatever company wants them to do.
yeah,
If
yeah,
your
yeah,
people are strong, if your people are having learning culture, then definitely organization goes miles and it becomes high performing learning organizations.
yeah,
Sustainably, these organizations are growing if learning culture is built in the organization.
yeah,
So these all organization, if you see whatever you have quoted, Tata, Infosys, or L&T, they all have become institutions in
yeah,
themselves,
yeah,
and they were the organization. They were always thriving to become high performing organization at the same time learning organization.
yeah,
The learning journey is never stopping. They
yeah,
are continuously learning and adapting to newer challenges.
yeah,
So that's how I completely resonate with you what you're saying that L&D is one function which builds a culture of learning and which teaches a way of life to the corporate employees,
yeah,
and they help them become their better version.
yeah,
And in a way, once the individual is stronger, teams become stronger,
yeah.
and gradually organization will become stronger.
Yeah, and in turn, the country becomes stronger,
Country
right?
becomes
So,
stronger. Yeah.
right, I think, that's the lens that I look at corporate L&D from, right? I think that is one function that is contributing immensely, propelling India towards being a highly developed country, right? I think, and I always feel sad that we're not laying more attention and more focus on that, right? And we'll also we'd probably chat about it offline someday, but I think that's very important in any skill that we develop. The other interesting thing from what you said earlier that I thought about is, there's a nice quote, I may not get it exactly, which says, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Right, in your case, like you said, you've always had a learning bent of mind, and probably you wouldn't have all these courses available online, but you went and found the book that you required to at least keep you abreasted on the words which a lot of people from that background may use. And I think that's quite amazing how people like you who really succeed in their career never have an excuse, right? Okay, this is the situation, I need the book, okay, let's find the book and get it, right? Yeah, I think that was quite amazing.
Just to add on to that, Swapnil,
Yeah.
when I reflect back, I see, my all schooling has happened in Hindi medium. So I
Mm.
did my uh, schooling, and even till graduation, I was
Wow.
studying in Hindi medium.
Mm.
So for us, catalyst was a Utprerak. I don't know
Mm.
whether you know about
No,
it
I
or
don't know.
not.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
So, so in chemistry, when we use the word catalyst,
Yeah.
so in Hindi it is called as Utprerak.
Oh, very
So
nice.
these kind of terms and words we were using till graduation. So I'm graduated in Hindi medium. Uh,
Oh.
and then I thought that if I want to make something big in my career, I need to know English
Mm.
because I did my schooling from a government school in Hindi medium and post graduation also from a government college in Hindi
Mm.
medium again. In
Mm.
Madhya Pradesh, we can do our graduations also in Hindi medium.
Mm.
So then I thought that if I want to do something great, I must know English because
Mm.
language of communication in corporate will be English only.
Mm.
And that was the reason I enrolled myself in my PG for MA English Literature.
Got it. Now it makes sense. Amazing, yeah, Yogesh. Amazing journey. I'm so glad to get to know about this. So that was the route, right? So you thought, okay, I need to get to know this, but well thought through, right? And even I think some of the things that you shared, even later, the minute you decide to get into L&D, again you took the journey of educating yourself in some way, right? On those subjects. I have to share this. I'm going with the flow, but I have to share this. One of something that really defined my own journey, Yogesh, was I think the biggest thought which I often share that defined my entire life is this thought that
Mhm.
says, like, work harder on yourself than you'd work on your job. If you work hard on your job, you may make a living, but if you work hard on yourself, you'll make a fortune, right? So this one line has defined my entire life, right? On the need to work hard on yourself all the time is such an important role, is such an important thing to do if you want to live a good life, both in your professional part of your life and your personal part of your life, right? I think it's very, very important, and you're a testament to that in just about everything, right? That you've continuously, in a way, worked hard on yourself, and therefore you've seen good outcomes to that, right? So anybody listening to this, I would encourage that as a lifelong process of self development. What would you say, Yogesh?
Swapnil, when I was hearing to you, I found that similar thing has happened with you as well. And if
Yeah,
you reflect and see everybody's journey, whosoever
yeah,
has made something in their life, everybody probably they followed the same thing. That
yeah,
am I working hard on myself? And am I doing uh, on a daily basis something to learn something new? Am I
yeah,
learning? And
yeah,
am I making myself stronger?
yeah,
So the it is said now that if you want to make a change, that change should start from you itself,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So that's true in every successful person's life, and
Yeah,
that's the thing which I think everybody should follow. That
yeah,
let's work on our own self, and
yeah,
the destiny will be there to help us,
yeah,
and we will make inroads in our own future.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's always
absolutely.
there.
Absolutely. I think that's amazing. Yogesh, since you have a deep expertise in the space of sales, I'm going to ask a lot of questions to you in that area, right? Starting with a few simple ones. In today's day and age, Yogesh, in today's time, 2023, if somebody wants to become really successful as a sales professional, what would your three pieces of advice to them be? How do they become really good as a sales professional?
So see, in pharma sales, the one and very important thing is that knowing your customer. That how
Mm,
good you know your customer.
mm,
If you are very good in understanding your customer's behavior, knowing your customer's liking, knowing your customers' habits,
mm,
uh, and if you are able to make a strong rapport with your customer.
mm,
So in pharma, is all about making a strong relationship with your customer because you
mm.
have a set of customer and repeatedly you are meeting with those customers
Yeah,
only,
yeah,
right? You do not have new set of customers.
yeah.
So the good thing is that you have same set of customers whom
Mm,
repeatedly you are meeting.
mm.
However, the challenging thing is that from them, those same number of customers, there are many people who are meeting and they are trying to sell their
Get sales.
products.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Right. So here, one thing is knowing your customer, which is very important.
Mm,
Number two, making a relationship with them.
mm,
And since here your customers are more knowledgeable than you,
mm,
uh, they are doctors,
mm.
being very, very authentic, having a lot of integrity,
Yeah,
be very honest, and do not bluff, and true to them and true to yourself.
yeah,
They want authentic people. They want true people because they have seen the world.
yeah,
They are more knowledgeable
yeah,
than you.
yeah,
So one thing is knowing your customer, making a strong relationship based on these all virtues which I just spoke about, and maintaining the continuity,
yeah,
right? Doing something to create a delight in customers' mind.
yeah.
Here, the important role comes is one thing is that is your continuity. Number
Mm,
two, how polite, how humble you are.
Yeah.
So your behavior plays very important role.
Yeah.
And very important thing is communication. How do you
Yeah.
communicate? How
Mm.
clear you are in whatever you are communicating.
Mm.
So these are few important things in pharma sales per se.
Mm. Very interesting. The thing is, more often than not, when I talk to uh, people across different industries, right? I end up finding more commonality than differences, right? And yet everybody feels that their sector is very, very unique, right? Of course, every sector has its own nuance. Every sector has certain things that are very unique and particular to them. But all the points that you shared, if we copy pasted those points across any sector, they would hold true, right? Because you spoke about knowing your customer, right? I think across all sectors that is extremely valuable advice, right? You spoke about building relationships with your customers. I think again across all sectors that's very, very important for a person to do. And I think being authentic, I want to pick on that point further. If anybody has to ask me, what is possibly the most important thing to do well as a salesperson, is don't bluff, like you mentioned, right? Be truthful and be authentic, because typically when you're a salesperson, the image of a salesperson is somebody that's going to sell ice to an Eskimo, right? That is the
Correct.
image that has been made. He's going to get money out of your pocket in some way. So the minute a salesperson comes in, people are often very wary about them. They already go on the back foot, right? Now, to add to that, if you are not authentic in your interactions with them, that further strengthens that particular thought that they already have about you, right? कि ये कहीं ना कहीं से मुझसे पैसे निकालने वाला है, right? So be authentic in just everything that you do, right? And be truthful, and you may even lose business sometimes slightly in the short run, but over the medium and long run, that's the only answer to it. And again, what most people don't realize is, more often than not, a person, even if he moves jobs, works in the same sector, right? तो आप यहाँ से वहां पे जाओगे, पर if आप अगर authentic नहीं, if you're not authentic, then you carry your reputation through multiple jobs that you have. So I couldn't agree with you more. It's a simple thing, but for a salesperson, I think it's the topmost thing of being authentic,
Mm.
not bluffing, being truthful, right? And last but not the least, the simple point that you mentioned of being polite and humble, I think that is extremely important. Because if you're not going to be polite and humble, you're not going to get a chance itself, right? You're going to repulse people immediately, that you go to, and especially the community that you spoke about, right? Dunya dekhi hui community, they're very, very quick at being able to pick up these things, right?
Mm.
That are there, because a lot of people have come and tried to sell a lot of things to these people, right? So I think these qualities that you mentioned are very important.
True. And in fact, Swapnil, you must have heard about this, that though in selling products are important, but the
Yeah.
person selling products is more important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
people don't buy product because of the product, but because of the person who is selling.
Absolutely.
So that also becomes very important, that who
Yeah.
is behind the product.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that becomes extremely important, right? So tell me, Yogesh, as if somebody were to move in the field of HR, right? Somebody, think of somebody that's just getting out of college and moving into the field of HR or L&D, however much you'd like to think about it. Again, what would your two or three pieces of advice be to that person if they want to start and really go to great heights in their career in the field of HR? What again would be your two or three suggestions to that person?
So, Swapnil, I would prefer to talk about any field rather than entering into specifically HR or L&D.
Got it. Yeah, that's a good answer too, because I also want you to think then in terms of saying, if anybody's entering the workforce, agnostic to
Yeah,
department, agnostic to sector, what
correct.
suggestions would you have to people to have a good career?
So from wherever they are starting, I would only just reflect back on my journey and
Yeah,
suggest from what I did.
yeah.
So when I see that one thing was evident with my journey, that continuous learning is the one thing which one should keep in mind. Once
Mm,
somebody is starting, focus on only one thing.
mm,
Uh, learn as much as you can.
Mm.
Uh, Keep a very, very open mindset of accepting challenges
Mm.
rather than just when once you enter in the new job, you are always uh, thinking about, well, oh, I'm into a new job, I'm getting this facility, that facility.
Mm.
Focusing on that should be less and more on learning.
Mm.
Put yourself in accepting newer challenges, take
Mm.
new initiatives,
Mm.
do a lot of things which increases your experience in that particular work which you are doing.
Mm. Mm.
As you said about this thing in the beginning itself, that be passionate in whatever you are doing.
Mm.
If you start taking interest and start doing best since beginning of your journey,
Mm.
you automatically will start finding clues that what more you can do.
Mm.
Second thing, in continuation to this, I will say that keep educating yourself,
Mm.
increase certifications, or maybe add on to your skills. So
Mm.
when I see that when I entered in insurance industry after pharma, I enrolled myself in licentiate certification. I did my licentiate certification.
Mm.
Then I enrolled myself for associate certification after completing my licentiate.
Mm.
So I was completing my associate, and then my move happened to pharma industry. Otherwise,
Mm.
I would have enrolled myself for fellowship also.
Mm. Very interesting. Yeah.
So keep enrolling yourself in that particular field,
Yeah.
uh, related certifications and all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you talk about HR and L&D, so if it in L&D there are many certification you can continuously enroll yourself for and keep adding to your knowledge and education.
Yeah.
So that's very, very important.
Yeah.
And then once you keep adding your knowledge, keep taking new initiatives to implement that knowledge. So
Yeah.
knowledge is important, but taking initiative to implement that knowledge by uh, asking for the projects related to implementation of that knowledge is very important. So
Mm.
once you implement that knowledge, since you are very enthusiastic to learn, you are enthusiastic to put it into practice. When
Mm.
you are putting it into practice, world sees that what you are doing.
Mm.
Something will change. When things start changing, people start noticing and you get more opportunities.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
gradually you start climbing ladders.
Yeah.
And flexibility and adaptability is one thing which is very, very important. Generally, people, you will see that in a group of 10 people in a team, one or two people will be very flexible and adaptable and they will be
Yeah.
ready to accept to all challenges.
Yeah.
These kind of a people, they are given more challenging tasks, more work.
Mm.
More task and more work should not be taken as a load. It should
Mm.
be taken as a opportunity to learn new things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's very important.
Mm.
Otherwise, 9 to 5, I want to work, or Saturday I don't want to work, or Sunday I don't want to work. These things becomes hindrance at times if you want to
Yeah.
move forward, because
Yeah.
on every step 1:5 ka ratio is there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There are less positions and there are many people.
Mm.
So if you are not pushing yourself, it would be little difficult to climb the ladders,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
right?
What a fantastic answer you've given. I don't think our 1 hour is going to be enough. Mahin, we already need to schedule a part two for this thing because it's such an exciting thing, exciting points that you've brought up. So I'm going to do a quick summary and then do a few comments and ask for a few of your comments on that as well. So I think when it comes to you, continuous learning is always a theme, right? Which I am very, very happy about because I think it should be in everybody's life. And you remarked on this very, very quickly, but you said to start with focus on one thing, which again I think is very, very important, right? I think the very nice quote that says everybody must know everything about something and something about everything, right? So I think when you're starting your career, it's especially important to build expertise in one thing, right? Really, really go deep into that. So that was one point. I think keeping an open mind and accepting challenges, I think, is such an important thing for you, for anybody to do. And I would want to just, Yogesh, to your points, just add one point, which is to say, seek and accept challenges, right? I think both things, because often the seeking is very, very important. And what I mean by seeking is, um, if you see a problem within the company, right,
Hmm.
raise your hand, go to your boss or go to your super boss and say, hey, I see this particular challenge from my vantage point, and I'd like to do something about this problem if you think it is important, right? That's really seeking and then in turn accepting that particular challenge. But a lot of people don't do the seeking enough, and even if they see the problem, they don't go, communicating that problem to their higher ups in a good enough fashion, which makes that an interesting project for them. Of course, you spoke about your third point was around being, passionate about everything to doing, because that's what increases your learning. And I really liked your point, which is of course connected to the first one on continuous education, but you spoke about, in a way, formally educating yourself through certificates at all points. And of course, we're upgrad, so we have to believe in this because we're selling these courses to the whole of the world. But I think there is a huge space for structured knowledge gaining that becomes very important. I also think, and I'm sure you'd agree to that, is that when an individual is a learner and takes the effort to do these things, it also comes on your LinkedIn or CV, but keeps reflecting very well to prospective employers, right? And I'm talking about prospective employers within your company and possibly outside your company, right? So it reflects very, very well that this person is very, very keen on learning and keeping himself abreast. It sends the signal, Yogesh ji, that this is a person that takes their career seriously, right?
True,
Yeah. What do you have to say? Is that a correct assessment?
true, true. And Swapnil, that structured learning has its own importance. Like if I'm
Yeah.
designing content for last so many years,
Yeah.
and just last week only, we went through one certification course on instructional designing. We
Yeah.
did it for our entire training team.
Yeah.
When I was sitting there for 2 days learning session, a structured session on instructional designing, it gives a lot of reinforcement on what right you are doing,
Yeah.
and it opens your eyes for what you are missing.
Yeah.
So both ways, it is helping you. So if you
Yeah.
go through structured learning, it is always beneficial. It is always
Yeah.
beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
would just add on to that. So maybe I might be doing coaching of people for last so many years, but when I enrolled myself in this ICF ACC certification, it opened my eyes and made me aware that many deep layers are there within. So
Mm.
superficial coaching has nothing to do with impacting uh, the people's thinking by
Mm. Yeah.
learning the structured process. So
Mm.
these certifications and structured courses, they have their own importance and it's
Mm.
valuable. So
Mm.
Upgrade is doing a great job in that way.
Very, very
So,
interesting. No, I find that very fascinating. Again, each and everything that you're saying, right? Because often people don't think of it from that lens, no, Yogesh. They don't think of it from the lens of when you go through structured knowledge gaining of any sort, you also realize what you're doing well or doing naturally, which is as important as learning new things or doing
correct.
what you're wrong, right? I think both things are very, very important, because that often happens to me. I'll go through some particular course or I'll go through something, I'm like, or read a book, right,
Hmm.
on a particular subject. I'm like, I do this already, but it's so good to see that there is a structure for this thing that now improves my ability to use this again and again, right? That,
True.
and I didn't know that particular structure, right? So there's just to tell you, right, there's a beautiful model of communication which is called the McKenzie pyramid model of communication, which essentially say that when you communicate anything, communicate in 3 points, right, or maximum 5 points, right? That's what it says. You realize that more often than not you communicate like that, right? But the minute you have that structure in place of how to do it, it just becomes so much better for you to repeat that particular pattern and become more effective and professional and productive as a person, right? So I think that's very, very important, the formal certification part, which not a lot of people talk about, unfortunately, right? Because sure, YouTube has a place, all kinds of learning has its own place, right? But I think this has its own place too. And of course, you spoke about implementing of knowledge, which again people rarely talk about, right? The asking for projects, like you said, right, taking up those projects so that you get an opportunity to do it. And lastly, you spoke about flexibility and adaptability, where I have one point to make, and then I want to bring you in. um I think fundamentally every person in today's world must decide whether they want to succeed professionally, or it's okay if they don't succeed professionally, and both options are fine, right? Like my own father, just to give you an example, my own father was from an he was one of those first generation of computer programmers that resettled in Canada, was doing brilliantly at IBM. But at some point of time, he decided that, listen, succeeding professionally is not a priority for me, right? So he moved Boria Bistar back to Goa, and started a small little business, and made ends meet. But professional success wasn't his the most important thing for him, right? And he lived an extremely good and happy life. So every person must make that choice, right? But if somebody really makes the choice to say that, hey, I really want to professionally succeed, I really want to do well, then it requires your point, Yogesh, of being flexible and adaptable, right? Because then if you're not going to be flexible and adaptable, it's very very difficult, given your 1 on 5 ratio, and that so many people are hungry in some way to get there, right? So then don't wonder why you're not getting to those positions when you're not flexible and adaptable.
So, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, go on. You were saying something.
And Swapnil, it's flexibility and adaptability in a way is required because now see, we have seen pre-COVID, post-COVID, a lot of changes
Yeah.
have happened. If I am adamant, my thought will be there that the things will
Mm.
work the way it was working earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I need to survive or I need to work as a catalyst to bring change in
Mm.
my team, I need to be flexible and adaptable to newer environment quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I exemplify that, if I be a role model in doing that, my team automatically follows because they
Yeah.
feel that this is the way of life.
Yeah.
So you know that world is ever evolving and
Yeah.
business world is changing very rapidly.
Yeah.
Every time environment changes rapidly. And if you want to drive, you want to make your team sustainable in that environment,
Yeah.
you need to adapt to your neighbor environment. You need to be
Yeah.
flexible. You need to
Yeah.
break your own rules, which you made
Yeah.
year before, because
Yeah.
now the environment is different.
Yeah.
So you need to see that what will work in current environment.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean when I was talking about being flexible and adaptable. If
Mm.
I want to drive my organization's growth in all sort of environment, I need to understand in this current environment what will work and what will not.
Mm.
If I go in post-COVID era, from COVID era to post-COVID era, and I start talking during COVID time that go and start asking for prescription from the doctors. Because
Mm.
earlier also you were going and asking for the prescription from the doctors.
Yeah.
It will not work. Doctor will
Yeah.
say, "Arey Baba, I don't have patience and I am myself scared about the situation. I don't know what is to be done." So in that case, how helpful you are to your customer, your
Yeah.
way of connecting with the customer should increase. You need to
Yeah.
adapt to the environment.
Yeah.
Here now your job is not to go there and demand for a prescription and talk about sale and all.
Yeah.
Your job is to go and help him, whatever you can offer as the human approach,
Yeah.
which can help him in this current scenario.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your approach should change. That's what I mean by adaptability and flexibility as per the environment.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think it's such an important point. I don't know who that this quote is attributed to, but the species that survives is not the strongest or most intelligent, but the one that's most adaptable to change, right? I don't know who said that, but I think that's very 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 important. Yogesh, tell me a little about the biggest trends that you're seeing in, you can make it sales training or just corporate training, however you'd like to pick the topic. What are the biggest trends that you've seen, or the biggest changes that you've seen happening in this domain over the last 3 to 5 years?
So see, as such, I see in learning, the way
Yeah.
people learn, that is
Yeah.
changing. Whether it is
Yeah.
corporate learning or the sales learning or it is at the school or my kids, the way they are learning, it is changing.
Yeah.
So earlier when we used to sit, we used to open a book and read a book and this is the way we used to learn.
Mm.
Now, if my son asks a meaning of one word which I don't know, he will go and Google and he will
Mm.
put it on a YouTube and get the entire
Mm.
explanation.
Yeah.
He will use Byju's and l- see a lot of videos on that subject, which will be
Yeah.
explaining him. 3 dimension, 2 dimension, and all sort of
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
explanation will be
yeah.
given. So the biggest change which has happened in last 3 to 5 years, which I see, is uses of technology in learning.
Mm,
So a lot of evolution has come in corporate learning. There's bite-sized videos that have taken place,
mm,
and we took that inspiration from Instagram Reels only, and we
mm.
started creating those videos with the help of your team.
Yeah,
That now these days people are more engaged on Instagram or Facebook, and
yeah,
they would like to see small bite-sized 2 3 minute
yeah,
videos.
yeah,
So people are more engaged on screen
yeah,
rather than in any other way of learning.
yeah.
So I think that's the biggest change which has been witnessed in last 3 to 5 years. Even children, even in corporate world, whether it is sales or corporate anywhere, people
Yeah,
are spending a lot of time on screen.
yeah.
And those who are able to use this particular medium effectively, they are able to
Mm,
drive learning quite effectively.
got it.
The old traditional methods, they will definitely have impact.
Yeah.
Uh, Once you are inducting someone, once you are trying to bring some behavioral changes, even in behavioral changes also,
Mm,
you must have seen that we are creating a lot of videos on behavioral changes,
yeah, yeah,
just to uh, make small clippings about
yeah,
what kind of a behavior gives what kind of impression.
yeah, yeah,
So, so I think that's the biggest change which has happened, that technology has enhanced the way
mm,
people used to learn earlier.
yeah,
Uh, there's a lot of acceleration in uses of technology in last three,
yeah.
4 years.
Got it.
Uh, lot
Any
of
other
people
big
have
change that
adopted.
you're seeing, Yogesh?
So apart from technology, if I see that learning has become more objective and business oriented.
Mm, what do you mean by that?
So if I see that, uh, so whatever means, if I see my approach here only in this organization
Mm,
and earlier what I used to do.
mm,
So earlier I will create few courses and I'll just run because it is to be run.
got it,
And
got it,
I'll
got
push
it.
them to go through these courses.
Mm,
Now the things is reversed. Now
mm,
I'll go and ask people that what are your needs, what are the
mm,
problems you are facing, what are the challenges you
got
are
it.
facing,
Yeah,
what are the problems learning can solve,
yeah.
and what are the problems where other interventions are required.
Mm.
So it has changed from learning to learning interventions, from
No, very
training to training
interesting.
interventions,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
right? So it's not only about training or the learning will solve all the problems,
yeah,
but in addition to learning or training, what are the other things which needed to be done?
yeah,
For learning and training also per se, what specific
yeah,
which can be implemented,
yeah, yeah,
not only just for the sake of adding something or tick
yeah,
mark activity.
yeah.
Now it is more related to specific problem,
Got it.
need
Yeah,
based,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
the thing which is helping someone to do his current job well,
yeah.
or maybe preparing himself for his future job.
Got it. Got it. Got it. I think that's those are two very, very nice things that you said, right? So one, of course, the big shift that you're saying in is in the use of technology, right? And the screen coming at the forefront of just about everything. And I think a smaller point that you made in a way is learning on demand in some way, right? So today, you don't know something, you instantly want to go and search for an answer to it, right? And I don't think corporate learning and development folks are thinking enough about learning on demand, however much we talk to them about it, because you think about the word, right? You don't know a word, immediately you go type it out on Google or YouTube and you get an answer, right? But do us as corporate L&D, do we have a repository that we've created both in a video format or a written format also, right, where people can get very instant answers to workplace related questions that they could have? I think that's a very, very important part of what a lot of corporate L&D people must focus on, right? I think that's a very, very important point to make. Yogeshji, we are running out of time. I have so many questions
Yes.
for you. I have so many questions to you. Okay, tell me last question possibly, right? What are
Yes.
the things that keeps you up at night, right? What is the thing that from a workplace point of view And I don't mean that much, don't throw light on that much about your company in specific. I mean your role, right? The role that you have. Even if I have to copy paste this to somebody else in a similar role, right? What are those kind of things that are keeping you all up at night?
So see, whenever I start something, I have a clear end in my mind that that's what I want to achieve,
Mm,
and that continuously keeps me pushing that I need to reach up to what I decided. So
mm,
whatever is end in mind, there I need to reach.
mm,
So if I need to reach there in this stipulated or this specific time limit, then whatever if it is day or it is night, I need to work. And that fire of achieving whatever I have decided that keeps me going.
mm,
That objectivity keeps me focused.
mm,
That's what I feel that pushes me to do whatever I'm
mm,
doing, irrespective of the time constraint or whatever it is.
mm. Okay. What a couple of smaller questions I have for you, right? Were you always a good listener? Because that's the one thing that I've really noticed in all my conversations with you, even when you're in a big group setting. Were you always a good listener, or is that a skill that you've cultivated?
No, I was not a very good listener. I cultivated this skill
First, tell me
for the
why.
last.
First, tell me the why part then of why did you cultivate this particular, what was the trigger point that made you cultivate it? And yeah, tell me about that.
See, कपिल हिंदी में एक कहावत है ठोकर
हाँ,
बन के ठोकर
हाँ,
खा के ठाकुर बनना.
हाँ, 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 बताओ कौन सी ठोकर है फिर
so
ये?
so so uh, so most of the times, like I was very judgmental. I used to listen half, and I used to judge that यही कहने वाला है. And that
Mm,
has happened a lot, even in my personal relationship. And I used to conclude very quickly,
mm,
and probably that might be happening earlier also. But as I said, that once you uh, get a bash or something like that, and then you understand that now you have to change. Otherwise, there is a lot of loss which you are going to face.
mm,
Uh, so at one point of a time, I realized that I'm being judgmental, and that realization comes only when you are having fear of losing something,
mm,
and that has started happening. That anger that was because of my judgmental nature. That
mm,
judgment was because of not listening completely to
mm,
what the other person was trying to say,
mm, mm,
and just going by the words. Sometimes words do not communicate what actually a person wants to convey,
mm.
because people are probably not may not be having that vocabulary with them. So
Yeah.
then I realized that was you need to understand a person rather than hear only words or be judgmental, because at times internally somebody is trying to say something else, but you are perceiving something else. So
Mm,
that was the trigger. That relationship loss was the one thing which was
mm,
quite a big threat, which
mm.
pushed me to think that this is one skill probably I need to be self-aware that this is
Wow.
missing, and I need to do something for it.
Yeah, lovely. Because I think we've had multiple interactions, and as most people in this field, I guess, where we tend to be very observant, right, of just observing what other people do well, don't do well. So that really stood out for me. And there's a difference between just somebody just being quiet in a meeting and somebody really listening. And very often you can tell the difference, right? That somebody's really listening, somebody's really absorbing, right? Very nice quote that comes to my mind. I think this was Franklin Covey who said the problem with communication is that we listen to reply, not to understand, right?
Correct.
And I've seen that just very often in meetings, conversations. You're really listening to understand first and then replying. And when your reply comes, often you're a tough taskmaster, right? But that doesn't stop you from really absorbing everything first. Yeah,
True.
I think, and that gets people to speak as well. Last question, although I'd have a bunch more for you. I've, and this is what the entire team also has to say about you, right? That you're a like a highly motivated person, and a highly motivated person, and your motivation is about producing excellence in some way, right? In anything that you do. So how does one remain motivated, right? What is the key to uh, being motivated towards what you do over a large period of time? Because you had now quite a long career and a good one. How do you stay motivated? Is there an answer? Because I'm happy, even if the audience would be happy even if you said like, this is me, right? I don't have an answer, and even that's a good answer, right? But I just want it to be an answer that is truthful. Is there an answer, or is this
Yeah,
just nature's game?
it's probably my own nature. Since beginning, it is like that only. So when I was in school, I will try to be in top three.
Mm.
When I was in college, mm, only one thing in my mind that okay, if my two of the friends are good singer, I'll also try to be a good singer. If they
Okay,
are playing drum, I'll also play a drum. If
got it.
I should be in top three. So that was always in mind. Probably it was a conditioning of my father. He always wanted me to be the best in the class.
Got it.
So, so wherever I go, I just keep that thing in my mind that I need to give my best.
Yeah.
So whether it was my training programs, whether it was the work which I'm doing, so it is always ingrained like that that I need to give my best.
Got it. Got it. So I think it's part comes across to me as part nature and part
Yeah,
probably a little bit of conditioning and a little bit of nurture from your father, right?
yeah.
And I think often it's a mix of this. Do you have anything to suggest to people, um, as to any tricks or tips in your mind that can ensure that a person keeps themselves motivated? Anything that you observed of other people that manages to, especially when you have to bounce back from a tough day, or you have to
Mm.
bounce back from something which is a project is not gone to your liking, but you need to now stay motivated. Anything there?
See, sometimes I also feel little down, but I bounce back, and I
Mm,
will just share what I do. When I bounce back, there is only one thing in my mind that self-affirmation works magical for me, and that
mm,
affirmation always says that I always call myself as a catalyst.
mm,
I say that I am a catalyst.
mm,
I'm a person who is there to bring changes
mm,
wherever I am, and that changes means positive changes. So if
mm,
I need to bring positive changes, that affirmation comes to me also that if you are here to bring positive changes, then you should be positive first,
mm,
right? So I called myself as a catalyst or a person who transforms
mm.
or a person who ignites the change,
Mm.
who is there, who is a trigger for bringing the change in the
Amazing.
environment, whether it is
Amazing.
family, whether it is working environment, or whether it is my condition at that particular moment when I'm feeling low.
Mm,
So I recall and I say to myself that I am a person, I am a catalyst who ignites the change,
mm,
who is there to bring changes. And
mm.
if I want to bring changes, I need to bring change within me. And that
Mm.
change should be always positive. And that
Wow.
affirmation works medical for
Yogesh, this is such a fantastic last answer on which we should end the show, because I don't think anything that either of us would say after this would be good enough. I think your belief of saying that uh, I'm a catalyst. I think that is such a powerful belief for anybody to hold at any point in their life and career, right? And then in turn, once you have that belief that I need to be a positive force for change or a positive catalyst, playing that back to you every time that you're low to bounce back, I think is you've given people something really nice to think about and implement. Yogesh, it was an absolute pleasure and honor to have you on this particular show. I am hoping that at some point we do a part two of this particular show, because otherwise, if we don't have the camera on, we'll go very quickly into work mode, direct work mode, right? If we don't have a camera on onto us, so I will definitely schedule a part two of this at some point. And always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Swapnil. It was quite an enhancing experience of last 1 hour. A lot
Yes.
of reflection has happened. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much for this wonderful 1 hour. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you very much. Bye.